Hello, welcome to the Binge Thinker. My name is Jameel. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Today, my guest is a good friend of mine, a fellow comedian and ethnic extraordinaire. Please welcome Mr. Sam Gebreselassie. Hello, Sam.
Hello, thank you for saying something extraordinaire. I don't know what it was.
An ethnic extraordinaire. I reckon it's a pretty good description.
Yeah, ethnic extraordinaire. The two E's, man.
Yeah, that's that's the basis of what we do. So for people who don't know, Sam and I have worked together closely for the last couple of years. We run Footscray Comedy Club together, as well as a couple of other projects, and we know each other well. And the reason for today's conversation is to talk about something that probably connected us early on, which is the idea of being a third culture kid. And I think this is a really underrepresented part of what modern Australian culture is. So I wanted to have a good conversation with Sam about how that affects his perspective, his comedy, and what we think, how the culture will be shaped through the maturing of these generations of second and third culture kids and how they'll impact society in general. Sound good to you, Sam?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, understood most of that.
So maybe for the folks at home, Sam, maybe you want to give yourself a bit of an introduction, your background, so a bit of context.
So yeah, my name is Sam Gebreselassie. So obviously by the last name, you know that it's an ethnic background. And if you're watching the video, you know it's ethnic.
Yeah, that's why all the lights are on.
The lights, color purple, baby. Sure. Inside joke. Sorry. Yeah, I was born in Sudan. My parents are Ethiopian. I grew up in New Zealand, and I've been in Australia for 5 years now. So yeah, very ethnic in that way. Yeah, it's definitely shaped who I am, living and being a part of so many different cultures.
Mm. Yeah, for me, for people who don't know, I'm a first generation Australian. I'm half Filipino on my mum's side, half Pakistani on my dad's side. Born and raised in Australia, raised Muslim, not religious. My parents' backgrounds are very divergent. My mum, Christian, still kind of conservative, but nowhere near as conservative as my parents' background. My dad's from Pakistan, raised Muslim. Of my dad's side of the family are conservative Muslims, and on my dad's side, they segregate women at gatherings. They don't eat pork. They don't drink. They don't smoke. On my mum's side, they drink beer, eat whole roast pigs at parties. And generally,
Imagine how your dad would feel just sitting there like...
No, he doesn't care.
Oh, really?
He doesn't care. That's the thing. Like, my dad, the good thing about, my dad, he knows where he is. He knows that he came to this country.
Yeah.
And he needs to assimilate to an extent or just accept the culture as it is. I mean, if you didn't accept it, why would you be a part of it? I mean, that's probably, I think a broader question for a lot of people when the more racist types, the more conservative types, and they go, oh, they come here, they don't respect our laws, they don't respect our backgrounds. But for the most part, my parents know where they are.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to agree with all the culture. I don't think anyone does all the time.
Yeah.
But they're not sitting here fuming at the fact that people smoke and drink, and that's when he came here, because he came here for the
Smoke
the better
and
life.
drink, yeah.
Nah, Dad doesn't smoke or drink, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, none of that. None of that my parents do.
So what happens when you guys are in family gatherings and there's like a spit roast there?
It depends on the spit roast.
Yeah. The actual food.
Yeah.
You can argue both are food, but
Oh, Jesus Christ.
one of them needs more salt.
Yeah, my dad doesn't care. Like my mum. So what my dad says is no pork in the house. Doesn't care if my mum eats it. Yeah. Whilst my mum was breastfeeding, he didn't.
That would have been hard considering you were a big kid when you were young.
Hey, I ate a lot of things, just not pork.
I mean, like, I didn't get that joke, but
no
pork in the house.
Yeah, thanks.
You are the pork in the house.
Man, my dad used
Surprised he didn't kick you out. I said no pork in the house, all right?
Yeah, he's getting kind of fat
Little
there,
piggy.
boy. Yeah, I mean, my dad used to call me Chunky as a kid growing up. That was one of my nicknames. Yeah, every time we used to go.
That's how you know he's conservative.
Yeah, thanks for the trauma, Dad. Yeah, my dad used to, every time we used to go shopping, like in the supermarket, it used to be Campbell's Chunky Soup.
Uh,
He used to point it out and be like, "Hey, it's your soup," and I'd be like, "Thanks, Dad. I'm 9." This is definitely not going to come up in therapy many years later when I become self-conscious about who I am.
and then you lost all the weight though.
Yeah, but I'm still the little fat kid inside.
You should really be thanking him. He really helped you out there.
Yeah.
All that criticism really got to you 20 years down the line.
Yeah, bullying is the way forward. It's definitely the answer to most social problems.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, there's a degree where I think adversity is certainly good, but
Yeah, you either crack or you succumb it. It's like I would love to know the percentage of people that overcome adversity, specifically because they got bullied so much when they were younger, and were like, I need to overcome this.
well, that's
And how many like succumbed to it and then like just went downhill.
I'd say there's a lot more people that have succumbed to it as opposed to healing from it,
Yeah, I reckon.
because
Not even healing. You just like like if you were chunky, you become skinnier or whatever. But that trauma's still there.
the trauma is still there.
Yeah.
That's actually what I want to talk about in another podcast. Is that, even though I've lost a bit of weight and I've transformed myself physically, and yes, to an extent mentally, but the old behaviors are still programmed into my brain. So, like I said before, I still am there's still parts of me where I'm the little anxious fat kid inside. So, and that's the thing is that, yeah, you might get bullied in high school and it might be traumatic, but the body and the mind is pretty good at repressing those things. So you don't necessarily know how you behave is influenced by that in your later life.
Yeah.
So it'd be pretty hard to tell who is actually healed and moved past this unless they've been actively conscious about it, versus who's just been a prick and passed on the pain. Because, it's a great quote, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you heard that story about the dad who named his twin kids winner and loser?
No.
Yeah. Like I was watching a doco about it. Like there was this little segment about it where...
Were they African?
No.
Because that sounds like some African shit. Like,
I actually don't...
a winner.
I actually don't know. Maybe they were. It was African American, maybe, or American. It was an American story.
That's some African shit.
And then, nah, no way. Africans wouldn't do that.
Oh, I don't know.
Seriously, they give names like unique, but they will never like unique, Prince.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, who else is going to that level? Because at least
blessed.
Yeah, blessing,
precious, yeah, innocent.
Oh yeah, but so all those, but
those are okay, but like win and lose is pushing it. So the story's like one kid was named winner, one kid was named loser, and like what ended up happening was like the kid named loser was like top of his class in high school, graduated, became a police officer, then like killed a few black people. But then then he became like a lieutenant and everything like that. Just like a really a great member of society, as people would say.
Wait, is this winner or loser?
This is loser.
Yeah.
They started calling him Lou. Detective Lou. So he's like, Loser's my full name. Loser's my government name.
Yeah.
And then the kid named Winner, just dropped out of high school, got into drugs, and just became the worst person. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like such a weird, because he had so much to prove. Loser had so much to prove. Whereas the winner was like, I'm a winner already. I don't need anything.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, look, adversity is certainly needed.
A certain amount of it is needed,
Yeah. To become a better person. What's that quote? It's like hard men, good times, weak men, bad times. Right? So we go through this cycle of hardening and softening as people, as individuals. But when you make the hard choices, your life gets easy because you're investing in the now, as opposed to taking the easy way out and not really getting where you want to go.
Yeah.
Like delayed gratification is one of the biggest behavior changes that I've seen to make within myself to achieve what I want. Is to not just go for that comfort and that easy now, making the hard decisions now, and the decisions when everyone else is making them later is easy for me because I've already put the work in.
It's true. It's like, I think that happens when you're younger a lot. I wish I was the way, but it's like, it's hindsight. A lot of it. It's like when you're younger, you seek instant gratification with everything that you do. It's like today, tomorrow, like you want that thing straight away. But now it's like, yeah, I'm doing things, but I want to reap the rewards of what I'm doing in the future. Like I don't, nothing comes easy, and nothing is gonna, it's gonna take a while. And finding that out was like, like you said, so important for my development as well.
Yeah, I think the problem with that is that it's not exemplified in our ecosystems in the way that we were raised, right? You know, I think it's probably another part of the the migrant perspective is a lot of them socioeconomically living hand to mouth. Haven't really been taught the benefits of compounding interest, financial literacy, all of these behaviors and functions that the wealthy and the successful, utilize on a constant basis.
But it's, you can't blame them for that though. It's like so hard to come to a new country where you don't speak the language or know the culture, and then trying to figure out how to maneuver. First things first, it's like, how do I maneuver around the environment I'm in first? And then I'm not going to get a good job because I have no skills. I'm going to get paid bare minimum. I'm going to be living in an environment where everyone around me is in the same situation, so I can't really make connections with anyone that's going to help me or teach me things. So it's like a downwards, trying to get out. I was thinking about it recently as well. It's like trying to get out of that like box is like near impossible. And especially like I grew up in like state housing. And so that's what I mean by everyone around me was in the same situation, living hand to mouth, kind of not have any financial literacy, never graduated from high school or finished uni or even went to uni. And
is this an NZ or is
this is in New Zealand. So like everyone around me was that. So everyone that I associated with was with that. So how was I even supposed to know anything? And even my parents, how are they supposed to know anything?
No, I understand.
And it's, that's like so hard. But my parents still had like the foresight to go, the only way you're going to get out of this is by studying really hard, and then by you going to uni and getting a good degree and then getting a job.
Yeah.
Like, so they still had that, like, they knew what it took to kind of get out of it. But, like, it's just that they couldn't do it themselves. It was, like, for the kids to do and then for their kids to be out of it.
Yeah. That's the common struggle with migrant families is you're starting again, you're taking a punt on yourself, you're eschewing, your traditional cultural values for a better life. Yeah. And you've acknowledged that there are differences in the way that other countries live that are for the better. And they pass on, every I'm sure every ethnic child and from every background has been forced or at least pressured by their families to get a good job, go to university, be a doctor, strive. Yeah. And absolutely. You can understand why families put their kids under pressure like that, because it's about survival.
It's about survival, yeah.
And, our parents know that they're suffering. They know they're not reaching their potential. They know that they're getting by. But they understand that they've come here for a better life and to change the narrative.
It's not even for them. It's like for the kids, like a better life for the kids, kind of almost.
Yeah.
It's like the next generation is going to have the better life. Like we're willing to take the hard route, not even the hard, take the hit, so that the next generation can have a better life, like in this country, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's underappreciated.
Yeah, very.
The migrant struggle and the migrant story.
Oh yeah, the kids, especially kids, don't no one like is grateful. Well, not no one, but like a lot of kids don't know like the struggle of being a migrant parent.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any.
You only realize when you're like older. I reckon in your 20s, mid-20s and stuff is when you go, oh, like this is hard. Like,
oh yeah,
being an adult is hard. So imagine being an adult, like being put in the middle of an environment that you have no idea of. Like,
and you know, I think particularly from when you come from a more Eastern background, the family unit is completely different, and the family support system is completely different compared to where you were back home.
yeah,
I mean, my mum and dad. My mum's one of 9, and my dad's one of 11. So family, the family
Goodness
unit and the
sakes.
family culture is ingrained as a central part of Eastern culture, and most
Yeah.
Asian culture, and I'm sure it's an African
yeah,
culture as
same
well.
as our culture. Yeah,
And that's why, you know, and that's why when people go, oh, why do they only stick to their own kind? Is because it's familiarity.
yeah,
That's why fucking bogans go to Aussie pubs in Bali, right? They
community.
yeah, they want community, they want to belong,
Yeah,
and you know they're usually extremely isolated.
that's a big thing. Yeah,
Yeah, and
Is-
how they form relationships and connections with people is completely different.
the family unit in Western cultures is like the family unit is the immediate family, meaning like mum, dad,
The
kids,
household.
the household, pretty much.
Mm.
It's like when you talk to some Aussies or Kiwis and you go, oh, like they ask you where you were on the weekend. You're like, oh, I was at my cousin's house, and they go, oh, okay, cool. And it's like, oh, you guys see your cousins, and they'll be like, no, we haven't seen them for a while. It's like not even they just don't see, like, only special occasions.
Yeah, Christmas,
Yeah.
Easter.
It's like I'm with my cousins like most weekends.
Mm.
Like most of the time where I'm spending time with my cousins, that's all I do. And that's so weird to them. It's like, what? Like, how come you see them that often?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, the family unit is so important in our cultures. And I think it's an important aspect of like life. I think if you don't have that sense of community, you kind of are going to rely on other things that are probably not good for you.
Yeah. And, you know, we learn the vast majority of our social connections and behaviors through how we interact with family. So it makes a lot more sense. So I understand the differences between, but I think with like Western cultures, though, there is a much broader emphasis on friends and colleagues.
Yeah, that's a massive thing that
Right.
confuses me.
They prefer the more professional and more social aspects of connection.
Yeah.
As opposed to the family unit, but that's because you have really no choice.
Yeah. What do you mean no choices?
Well, if you're an insular family unit of 4,
Oh yeah, you need outside of that you need something.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like school generally teaches you more about socialization than does education.
Yeah.
So, and most of the people you spend time with as an adult are usually colleagues.
Yeah.
So,
And your friends, just like people you've made friendships with along the way, kind of thing.
yeah, and probably the majority of them either came from some sort of schooling background or some sort of work background.
Yeah, 100%.
But I mean, I could be wrong from my family's experience. The colleague relationship is nowhere near as deep. It's a lot more transactional than
Yeah,
the family connection. And so it should be.
yeah, of course.
But, you know, that's what they do. They've got to make do with the situation.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like, yeah, that whole friendship kind of group kind of thing. Like, I've never really, like, I have close friends that I like obviously hang out with a lot and stuff like that, but not as much as I hang out with my family.
Yeah.
And seeing that was obviously a cultural shock, where, like, I see it in my little cousins now, where they would go like, I'm going to my friend's house when we're having like family gatherings.
Yeah, and you're like, what?
What do you? Yeah, it's like,
doing?
what do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you're friends? And like my auntie would be like, what do you like?
Yeah.
Why do you need your my like mom, dad, and like aunties they would just like flip at you. Like he'd be like, oh, I'm going to see my friend, and they'll be like, why? Why are you going to see your friend?
Yeah, yeah.
Like they don't get it. They just
They feel betrayed.
yeah, they feel betrayed.
They're
It's
like, oh, okay.
yeah, it's like, why are you going? It's like you always go, you see your friend. What has your friends done for you?
A lot more than you, the racist auntie.
Yeah, they get so like into it. They're like, your friends, you don't need no friends. Like even at school, in high school and stuff, if I said I'm going to my friend's house, my mom would be like, you just need to focus on studying. Your friends, they'll do nothing for you. Like, they'll just, like my auntie, my uncles, they all are like that. They're like, they don't need friends. But then like, this was like when I was younger, but now they've like assimilated it to some extent, and they see the importance of friendships and connections like that for kids outside of their family.
Yeah.
And so they're very like, they've changed so much where they'll take their daughters and son like to their friend's house. They'll pick them up. They'll like make sure, but all they have to do is like make sure if we're having big family gatherings, they have to be there and they have to be interacting. Like they have to come out of their room and be with us the whole time.
Yeah.
If they're not, they're like, no, you're not going next time to your friend's house. You didn't come and hang out.
Yeah, I mean, like, I definitely see that. I don't do that with my family as much because the problem with my family is, again, this third culture thing is that I grew up in a complete intersection of two very different cultures.
Yeah,
and you know, I don't speak any of my parents' languages. They're both migrants. I'm first generation. So I sit at family gatherings as a perennial outsider because they're speaking Urdu at my dad's gatherings and they're speaking Tagalog and Bisayan at my mum's side. So they're both jabbering away, saying whatever they want because they're in their mother tongue, and fair enough. That's what the family's about. It's about being comfortable, and that's what it is. But I sit there and I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. It's very disconnecting.
But don't you like connect with the younger people? Like, do you have any cousins or family friends that are your age they can speak?
Oh, they all speak English.
Yeah. I mean,
so like the kids, they're okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
The connection with that generation is like non-existent.
No, I have some, but not much.
Yeah.
They're still my cousins, but you know, a couple of them.
I mean, like with the adults.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the big one with me as well. It's like the adults. There's like you have nothing to talk about. Like there's no, especially if you don't speak the language like very fluently. Like I speak it, but I'm not very fluent.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's like, how's this work? Oh, good.
Yeah.
But then they'll see me sit down and have a conversation with one of my cousins, and like me and my cousin and a few of us will be sit down. Like the last time I was back home in Wellington, like all of us were like around a table, me and my cousins, little cousins and stuff like that, close friends. And we were just like talking like crazy, having like all these conversations. And the adults were like on the couch.
Yeah.
Usually the adults are the loudest, that we just sit down and just like be quiet. This time we were talking so much and the adults were like, you guys are like outdoing us with the conversation. What's going on now? Like it's like they're so like.
But is that in English or is that in?
So we're speaking in English and then they're speaking in Tigunya and Ethiopian and stuff like Amharic. Tigunya mostly.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we still have like our connection and they have their connection, but if I'm talking to the adult, I'll still be, oh yeah, work was good. I did this. Like you give them basic.
Yeah, just the fundamentals.
Yeah, but like you don't know how to talk at a deeper level with them.
No.
Whereas with my like cousins and stuff, I'm like talking about real deep stuff, like going into detail about things.
Yeah.
And they're like, I feel like we're missing out. You guys are having a better conversation.
Yeah, no, I've got something similar. Like every Christmas on my mum's side, because my dad's side doesn't celebrate Christmas. All my cousins and my generation, all the kids, so to speak, we sit, we play games, talk.
That's the best, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really look forward to it. And then the oldies and the sisters, so to speak, they're the ones that are related closest.
Yeah,
they're speaking Tagalog and Bisayan. I think it's Bisayan. I'm gonna get ripped for that. But I don't know. I always forget my mum's actual language. I'm pretty sure it's Bisayan. It's alright. She'll never.
I'll ask Shanice.
Yeah,
your cousin.
Yeah, she would know, and then she's gonna give me shit too. But yeah. Again, that social divide is a generational divide.
Yeah.
And which is, you can't do much about it. It's really about how much they want to integrate. But, they're just, a lot of our parents' generations are just happy to be here.
I think, they're definitely happy to be here. And they're also happy that the next generation is getting along and they're creating their own, like, ecosystem within the Western world kind of thing. Like,
Yeah,
especially
they're finding their own way.
they're finding their own way, but also like me, my cousin and stuff who lives here, my sister, we all like get together every couple of weeks probably.
Yeah.
And we have our own like. We used to do this back in Wellington, where we'll go to different people's houses every week. But we're doing it here, and I think, like when my mom and my auntie see that, we send photos and stuff like that. They're so happy. They just like they don't. They just like cool. Like now, the next generation is creating their own little like group.
Yeah.
So that's good. We've done our job. They're doing that, and
Yeah.
then like they just hope that like I hope that with my cousins and my cousins and stuff, when they have kids and I have kids, like the next generation will do that as well. Like they'll get together every week and hang out and stuff like that. And that's so cool. Like having that connection.
Yeah.
So grateful to have like a family members here that I can hang out with the same way I do when I'm back in Wellington.
Yeah. Well, how much of your family unit is here versus Wellington versus back in Ethiopia?
Yeah. So a lot in Ethiopia. So a lot of my mum and dad's like brothers and sisters and their kids and stuff. I've only met them like once.
Similar boat.
Yeah, met them once. Very nice. Like keep in contact on Facebook and stuff. And in Wellington, like my 2 aunties and their kids are there. And then here it's one of my aunties, her 2 little kids, and then 2 of my cousins with their little babies, kids as well, and then my sister.
Yeah.
So I've got a few here as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that's why I chose to come to Melbourne for the most part. It's like I had a few friends here already, but mostly because I had family here.
Yeah.
And I stayed with my cousin for like 3 years at her house. Like,
yeah.
So it was like definitely important to have like family everywhere I go. That's the first thing I kind of make sure. Yeah.
Yeah. How big is your mum's side of the family? Like at her level, how many siblings?
Oh, yeah. My mum's got like I've only met like 2.
Yeah.
No. Like so, my mum's got she's got 2 sisters. In New Zealand, she's got 1 sister here.
Yeah.
And then I've met 2 of her other siblings in Ethiopia.
So she's one of 6?
6, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But like, yeah, that's even more complicated in terms of like half sisters and stuff.
Oh yeah, I've got the similar problem.
But we don't really say that. We don't allow to say.
Well,
you just say sister or brother.
Yeah,
you don't say anything like.
Yeah, I know. My dad's dad had 2 wives.
Yeah.
So there was 11 on one side with my dad's family, and then his second family I don't even know, and it's just like it's just blown out.
Yeah, it's too far back to kind of like trace.
Oh man, my family tree would be insane.
Yeah.
I wonder there's bloody so many Asians and Indians, man, because they fuck.
Yeah, it's so interesting how that's like. But your dad's like, that's somewhat a Muslim thing as well?
Yeah. I think it's
having multiple wives, or is it?
It's in the culture.
Yeah.
Whether you want to adhere to it or not,
yeah,
it's up to you. And every region of Islam has a different interpretation based on where you are. Like in Saudi Arabia, it's they use Wahhabism, which is much more conservative.
Right.
And they're all about the multiple wives and Sharia law and things like that. Pakistan, variants, probably more liberal compared to the proper Middle East. But yeah,
you just write laws that you want in there. Because who is it? Someone was saying like it's like the 10 Commandments. It's like, why is adultery there? Like why is that so specific?
Because
it was just like that was happening a lot. It's like you got to put that down.
This one's for the ladies.
Yeah,
no adultery.
Yeah. This one for the ladies. It's so specific. It's like why isn't there this and that? And I'm like, bro, the tablets are not big enough to.
Yeah.
How many tablets do you want?
Yeah.
Whoever the person was that got them to come down.
Like, I got 15 more commandments. My hands are exhausted.
Yeah. Go up and be like, this. Can you just cut it down to 10, bro? I'm taking 1 tablet and
When I was,
That's it.
when I was a kid, when it's because I'm a left-hander, I used to get all that fucking like ink on my hand.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
little
same.
stone chips
Yeah.
just bled in. And like, fuck, this guy.
Bro, enough with the rules. Let us live our lives.
I know. Fuck. So, but okay. So with the culture stuff, right? You identify most with being Ethiopian.
Yeah,
And then-
definitely. Mostly Ethiopian.
Like, what percentage? If you had to break it down to like a percentage of all the cultures and the influences and how you perceive yourself, what's the ratio?
I'd say like maybe 50%, 50% Ethiopian.
Yeah.
Maybe 40% Kiwi. Maybe 40% Kiwi.
Yeah. Right.
And 10, 20% sick cunt. I'm sorry, I had to say. You can beep that out.
I'm
Is
gonna
this
have
thing
to.
on?
Yeah, it is. Shout out to Hugh Robertson.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I kind of like, I was thinking about this. It's like Ethiopian culture is like so deeply rooted in religion.
Mm.
And like the Orthodox Church actually used to basically control the country.
Mm.
And like if the emperor wanted to be like come to the throne, he had to like seek seek approval from the church.
Yeah.
And then they would say, yeah, okay, and then that's how that connection would be created, and then people will accept him more. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's with the church.
This thing, people.
And
Sorry, keep going.
yeah, and so it's like, I don't know, I'm religious, but not like that level of religious. So it's like when your culture is like that deeply rooted in religion, it's kind of like if you're not deeply religious,
Mm.
then you kind of stray away from the culture a bit.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me say like 40-50% influenced by Ethiopian like culture. And but I say I'm Ethiopian because that's like my parents were quite like good in making sure that I was like, yeah, this is who you are, and like this is your heritage. This is what we do. Like every week there'll be some sort of event. Every Christmas, every New Year, every like some Independence Days of one of the countries of Eritrea.
Yeah.
Like there's like specific events that we always go to, and it's like basically the whole Ethiopian community will be there.
Yeah.
And so when you're surrounded by that when you're a kid, of course, that's like a massive influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so that was a big thing. But like some of the like every couple of weeks, every couple of months, there's like little shindigs at my house or my auntie's house where we would get together, and it's like a promise made to God for something that like
You got to promise God every week?
well, it's like a promise made back in the day of something bad that happened, and you praying on it, and then it coming like better or whatever, and then you're saying to God, okay, from then, because you've helped me with this, from this day on, I'm gonna do this thing where I get my family together and we have like
It's like bargaining in a way.
no, it's kind of like to say thank you more than anything. Not like I will do this if you do this for me.
Right.
It's more like thank you for doing that. So this day is a special day now.
So kind of like church, like Sundays or a holy day or
It's
Sabbath.
a holy day, like almost like a promise, a holy day where, and just to like make food, get some people over, just like a little celebration of remember like that happened, and then this became
Yeah, it's like a Sunday lunch sort of
yeah,
thing.
and it's like a saint, so it's like praying to a saint or like praying to Mary. It's like a specific day for each thing as well.
Yeah, right. That's the other thing is that, I only learned through you about Orthodox Judaism being a prevalent religion in Ethiopia. Like, how long has that been around? Has that been around?
Okay, I don't know if it's that prevalent, but it's prevalent.
Right.
Like,
What's the because
the ratio wouldn't be very high. Maybe,
okay.
yeah, it wouldn't be massive. It would be 5-10% maybe.
Oh, okay. So you're actually a minority.
Yeah. They're minority, like in all respects of that word.
So, and then what's the rest of it? Because I thought like Ethiopia was predominantly Muslim.
Nah, there's quite a bit of a Muslim population, and then Orthodox is a major one.
Like Orthodox,
Christian Orthodox,
right?
Ethiopian Orthodox.
How did that? I mean, so they've never been conquered, but the religion still spread.
Well, they what's the word? It was like in 4 AD. It was like one of the first countries to actually, yeah. 4 AD.
It would have taken Jesus 4 years to get to fucking Ethiopia. He's like, guys, check out what I'm doing.
He was in Ethiopia. What do you on him?
No, he wasn't.
From the Red Sea, just cross over.
Yeah, take a shortcut.
Yeah.
He's on Google Maps.
Nah, bro, he just went the water. Need to get past.
The original 4-wheel drive.
That's why it's called Red Sea. I don't know why, but anyway.
You tried.
Anyways, I was like, there's something there. Yeah, I read somewhere, yeah, it was like in 4 AD, it was like adopted. Christianity was adopted in Ethiopia.
Right.
I don't know how or why, but since then it's been majority.
Yeah.
Orthodox.
Right. What is I mean, that's the thing is like, no one thinks about Africa, unfortunately, and we know that because that's why they're in poverty. But the actual,
have you not seen World Aid?
yeah, only recently.
Oh yeah, that was 91, bro.
Yeah, I was 1, but that's what I mean. Like, no, Africa is actually a gigantic continent, it's second biggest, I think. It's underrepresented in maps. Everyone just stereotypes Africa.
Yeah.
Right. But it's been colonized by so many different backgrounds. And yeah.
So many. It's like the list. It's like the scramble for Africa, like when like basically all the countries were just trying to grab any country they can. All the European countries and stuff like that.
Yeah. What was Africa after the Americas?
Yeah, it would have been after.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more recent times than the Americas.
Yeah, because I know that, some countries only got their independence in the last 30 to 50 years. Yeah. It's so strange, we think that, it's when you think about it like that, like India only got its independence in the 50s. Right.
Yeah, it's not that long. It's like one generation, like one person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And then you wonder, why is racism still around? Because we've still have colonialism tied into the bloodline and the habits, and
the whole system. You're trying to change a whole system that's been ingrained and built, and not just the system, but like in the people as well. Yeah. Like and that's like generational. Yeah, it's like it's not generational. I mean, like it's passed on from one generation to the next. Yeah, trauma doesn't go in one generation. It's like 4, 5, like 6.
Well, it depends on how much work you do. I mean, one of the things I'm certainly working on is trying to remove intergenerational trauma from my family and from my experience. Yeah. And, it's hard work.
Yeah, but like how many people have the resources that you do and have the time and, It's like the majority of the population will not even start. No. Have no way of starting.
No, you're right.
No resources at all. So it's like, I get it. It's like, it will take a long time. But it's like, yeah. I was thinking like you would think racism would go away in specific places. I don't know. I had this idea about like in America, you would think racism would be, for the most part, gone because we're removing trauma from it. Like, because, like, they used to hate African Americans, right?
They still do.
Well, I'm saying like they used to, as in like this has been a long time, happening for a long time. So like, wouldn't you get to a point where you go, actually, they're not too bad, like, and then, and then move on. No, and then move on to the next group. Like, be like, yeah, I'm done with like hating people specifically because they're a different color or they're a different race. Now I'm gonna move on to people of people's different sexualities. Like, you know, like move on. Like, how can you be like all three, like racist, homophobe, transphobe, like sexist? Like, do one at a time and then move. You know what I mean? Like, I would, like, if I was, I would be like, get to a point where you're like, okay, African Americans are fine. Like, I've given them a lot of shit for so long. I'm going to move on to...
You're assuming it's based on rationality.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. You're actually,
it's logically hating.
Yeah, it's not
I prefer logical hate. Like, if that's the case.
That's definitely not the case. I mean, yeah.
We need to change that right now.
How?
With my new book. How to Hate Properly. Racism light.
Well, that's the thing, is that we never talk about... Racism seems to be a white to non-white dynamic. But in reality, racism runs way deeper in the non-white aspects of society.
Yeah, 100%.
I think the difference between it is that, again, we have bulked all of the Eurocentric perspective of all of these European colonizers, as white people, as the oppressor.
Yeah.
And that unites all the non-whites against the white perspective. Doesn't matter if you're German, doesn't matter if you're Portuguese, doesn't matter if, all these old colonies, right?
Yeah.
You're just white people and you're fucking it up, the rest of us. But what's not spoken about is the deep tribal wars and the deep separatism that exists even regionally in every culture. Particularly every Eastern culture.
Yeah.
There's so much infighting.
And I think that's to do with, like, white people brought it on themselves.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, it's a sign of progression, though. It's actually quite good. It's like, I think it's a sign of progression where you're, like, at the point where you're like, we shouldn't probably make jokes or say things about certain cultures, or even like just because someone comes from a different culture or from a different, like, has different sexual preferences or like all that. It's like, you're so far progressed that you can actually start working on these things that no other culture has even thought about yet.
That is true.
It's like progressiveness. No one talks about how progressive the West is, and no one gives them, like, credit. Like, everyone just like, this is bullshit. Like, the West are like, they're still like, the West, you know what? They're not even giving women jobs. Like, it's like, okay, that's messed up, obviously.
Yeah.
But can we just acknowledge, like, how far this has come?
The fact that you can give a woman a job in the Western world.
That's a massive thing.
I tried to make this as a joke. It never really worked, but, like...
Maybe don't say it while this is recording.
No, I'm going to give this a shot. We're taking swings on this podcast. Is that,
your swings are more like backhanded.
Yeah, well, that's me. This is what this podcast is authentically me. Is that...
That was a reference to the woman bit, but carry on. Anyway, I had to acknowledge it.
Yeah. Like, people talk about women equality in the workplace, right? But in Saudi Arabia, Mercedes sells self-driving cars now. And in Qatar, they have self-driving cars.
Yeah.
But women only got the right to drive, like, last year. So the cars are driving themselves before the women were allowed to. In the Middle East. And no one talks about that. But we're talking about the glass ceiling here.
Yeah.
And that's what's unfair to the white narrative.
Yeah.
And the Western narrative is that they're the only ones making progress.
Yeah, I just like to acknowledge that, like, we should not be talking about women's issues right now. I'll just put it in the perspective of being a black person. I'll talk about that because, like, I acknowledge, like, this, like, in the West, like, I'm very lucky, like to be living in the West, and, like, in terms of, like, the racial, how I've been treated racially, like, it's been pretty good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I've been called things and I've been shouted at things, but, like, still, nowhere as bad as other places in the world. You know what I
No.
mean? Like, it's like I'm still aware, although I make a lot of jokes about like racism and white people being racist in these situations. I acknowledge that they're doing pretty well. Like, not doing well.
Look at that guilty.
Not
fucking
well
look
as
at the
in being
camera.
racist. I mean, like, they're doing well as in, like, they're learning. Like, they're
We're learning.
And
We're
like,
all learning.
this is how good it is here. I've been complaining about people, white people, like, are too afraid of, like, saying things to me because they don't want to offend me. Like, that's the level of progression we're at, where you got to a point where now we're so scared of offending someone or saying something that's gonna hurt someone's feelings that we actually treat people differently just because of that. Like a good difference.
Yeah, the white lens is on the back foot. The
Yeah.
white perspective's on the back foot.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I want to talk. You can talk to me. Doesn't matter if you're not gonna accidentally say like something race. Like, that's not gonna happen. But I feel like when I'm talking to someone, I feel like they feel like, oh man, what if I say something? Like, it's the whole idea of like it's the whole thing where my supervisor, I was carrying a chair for her, and this old white lady was like to my supervisor, well, aren't you a slave driver? Because she saw me carrying a chair for her. And I was like, it's not like, I get it. That was just a statement of truth. But like, the connotations associated with history, like that white lady wasn't like, click, click, click.
That was you, actually. Click, click, click.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But
Especially because I couldn't speak English at the time.
but did you like the difference is intent.
Yeah,
The
intent
difference
is
is
massive.
always intent.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think people generally don't. I don't get that as much as you do, because for obvious reasons. If you're watching this on camera,
Yeah.
because people don't know where the fuck I'm from.
Yeah.
They know I'm not from Australia, and that's it. So they're not treading on eggshells.
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand why people feel that way, because socially we've been on the attack. But how much of it do you think is white people trying to show allegiance by underhanding the rest of the white culture and the Western culture versus actual progressive people of color pushing back on the narrative of, hey, my culture isn't for sale. You need to be more respectful about the way you talk to me, and don't have that pity or negative perspective.
I think we're at that point now because of how progressive our society is, where now we're both pushing back at each other. Well, initially it was like, oh, thank you for being like acknowledging my suffering and acknowledging my oppression. And now it's like, actually, shut up, like stop looking at me like that.
Do we want to talk about the Black Lives Matter rally and the patronizing aspect of that?
Please don't call it a rally.
But it was.
I was like, is that what I went to?
Yeah.
I thought I went to a protest.
What's the difference between a rally and a protest? Tiki torches? Like,
Yeah, well, and white people.
well, there was
A
one.
majority.
Well, wasn't it?
That's true. There was.
I mean,
But it's not a rally. It was like acknowledgement of suffering, I think. And that was important. But obviously, there were, with everything, nothing is done 100% right. And it's so hard to do something 100% right because you're coming from.
there is no 100% right answer. There's
Well,
no,
yeah, it's all black and white. It's like, yeah, the people that set that, that organized that event had good intent and they wanted to voice their support for what was happening in America and what's happening here with the indigenous community. But it just felt like, it just felt fake. Not like the whole thing, but it felt like some people,
a lot of it was pandering.
and some people there felt very fake. It was like like when you see someone like a model, Instagram model, walking through the crowd with a person holding like a big camera beside her. That's like, that really irked me so much, because it was just like, oh, you're using this as like
Social leverage.
yeah, and it feels like sometimes a lot of that happens with these sorts of movements. Yeah, so I didn't yeah. I think because we were having that conversation the whole time we were at the protest, we were
We
walking
just
around.
kept picking it out. We were just
Yeah,
like, that guy's full of shit. That person's
yeah,
full of shit.
yeah. The worst one for me was that white kid with the Black Lives Matter sign on top of the bus stop,
Oh yeah, that's right.
and he was like that kid, great. Nothing against that kid. Great. Had the energy. He was like shouting Black Lives Matter, and the crowd was repeating it. Awesome. Great. Nothing wrong with that. Keep walking. And then I see a bunch of African youths get up there and take the sign off him. And then they start parading that sign.
Yeah.
And it's like, that felt fake. And it was like, I say fake because, like, fake not just from white people, it was fake also from black people. It was like, it was this fakeness of like, I'm black, so like, and this is Black Lives Matter rally, so I deserve to have that sign. You're taking this is a reverse oppression.
Yeah.
I felt sorry for that little white kid. I'm sure he was like 15 or something. He was a young kid.
Yeah.
15, 16, and these like young African guys got up there and just took off. They were just like, this, like, my skin color says I should get that sign.
Yeah.
Off you. Like, I don't know how many hours you spent at home making this sign.
Yeah, sitting there with a Sharpie.
Making sure your Sharpies are fair trade. No one was oppressed by the use of your cardboard.
Yeah.
Like, and then you taking, like, if you wanted that sign, make that sign at home. If you really believe this cause.
Yeah, don't steal it. Don't fall into the stereotype.
Yeah, don't like, not steal it, but like, it's like, hey, can I borrow your bike? And never see your bike again.
Yeah,
I've had that happen to me so many times.
Oh, yeah.
Can I borrow your cardboard sign?
I mean,
It's like, that cardboard sign should have hit like, I'm not going to go into that, but yeah. It's like one of those ones like, change my mind in an opinion, then change my mind.
Yeah, yeah. But, I mean, hey, it's progress, right?
It's massive progress, and the fact that I can kind of criticize this protest, that's like progression. That's how amazing it is. I'm fully aware of the two. Like, I'm aware that I'm calling out something that's supposed to better my life. Like, I'm aware of that. So, like, but
it came at the cost of another person's life. Yeah. And many other lives in the process.
Yeah.
So, is it do you consider it like a collective conscientious apology for what's happened on behalf of white people? Or do you just see it as that's not a representation of who we are, and we see it as a wave of support?
I see it as a wave of support, and that's not what we represent. I think it's beautiful, man. That's like amazing that happened. That happened. I think we also have to acknowledge like that happened. Thousands of people got out and support of what's happening in America, like what's happening around the world. I shouldn't just say America, but specifically America. That's amazing. Kudos to everyone that was there, and like that warms my heart seeing that. But I'm also aware of like the hypocrisy of it all.
So it's the grain of salt, really.
It is. It's like, it's beautiful. It's like amazing. It's like I've never felt so connected with like everyone. I've never felt like we're just humans in this like void. Like everyone is trying to get through. Everyone just like living. Everyone just trying to live. Life's hard and everything. And the fact that happened, where around the world people got together and said like, hey, we're not for this. Let's stand up and like support fellow humans. Just amazing. But when I was there, I couldn't focus on that. I was too busy focusing on the constant hypocrisy of like everyone that was there, and like, oh, this like just so many movements together where like we want this, we want that, and this is like, let's focus on one.
Yeah, and I
as
think,
well. That was the other side. It was like, let's focus on one thing at a time. Obviously, we want equality for everything, everyone. But we're here for a specific reason. Let's focus on this one first.
yeah, like that Free West Papua sign. You're like,
Yeah.
I mean, they're black, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, that's
What I thought was, I didn't know there were African Americans in West Papua. I thought it was a Portuguese flag first.
I thought West Papua was a pimp's name.
I love it when you call me West. No.
West Papua.
Put your hands in the air.
If
You've been oppressed. Okay, that was a mad.
Well, all right. Well, speaking of dark jokes, how do you feel like this? I mean, both of us leverage the intersection of culture in our comedy,
Yeah.
and that I think that just comes naturally because that is our reality. And how long have you been looking at that perspective comedically? And a secondary question to that we were talking about before, when we were talking about the antagonistic, where you're at the rally and you're just pointing people out. Is that the comic? Is that the cynic in you?
Yeah, I'll ask the second question first. Like, I think you have to be a cynic to be a comedian. I think all my material is because I'm such a cynic of like everything, and it's so it's hard being a cynic constantly. Every single thing you're constantly like focusing on criticism rather than what's wrong instead of what's like right about it. And that's what I think for me comedy comes from. And in terms of the first question, yeah, because it's like focusing so much on the intersectionality of our like cultures, and being influenced by Dave Chappelle so much when he created Chappelle Show, and watching that when I was younger, that's such a massive influence on everything I talk about. And it's like I'm conflicted because it's like, am I being regressive? Like, I've had this conversation recently. It's like, am I being regressive by the type of comedy I'm doing? Because is like 50 years, maybe like 20, 30 years from now, are people going to look at this and go, ugh, like,
Yeah, they are. But that's that's the natural progression of things. I don't think that really.
But like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be doing comedy that's regressive. You always want to like you want to be beyond what's acceptable.
You want to be evolving.
You want to be evolving. But if I'm not evolving to the state that we're in now, how am I going to evolve later? Because I sometimes think like the stuff I'm doing now, I'm like, I shouldn't be like, this is like maybe 10, 20 years now ago. This type of material is old. This is like, and I think with the Chappelle special coming out, that really questioned a lot for me as well, because with the pushback against a lot of the stuff was like, wait, if what he's doing is regressive material, like, and I kind of like, I really like him, does that mean I'm doing regressive material by talking about race and everything like that?
I don't think so, because I think the difference between race-based comedy, let's talk 10, 15 years ago, and race-based comedy now is, before it was a little bit more nuanced and it was about the celebration of differences. Now it's a lot more antagonistic. It's a lot of comedy has become protest-like, and defiant. Yeah. And it should certainly have an element of defiance associated to it. But if you're not connecting a room with sharing your perspective and creating a level of empathy, then you're not really helping the situation. You're creating that divide. And that's, we have this problem sometimes at our own shows. Yeah, is that we want, for example, Jambo and Footscray Comedy Club, our room is too left for us.
Yeah.
We are there to talk shit from any different culture, any different background, gay, straight, African, Asian, whatever it is. It's about uniting people in a room and laughing together about what makes us different, but we're actually connected in the room because we can share that experience. Yeah. But I think similar to you talking about the white guilt before, is that, people, because of this antagonism, white people in the Western audience is afraid to lean in and feel comfortable at laughing at this stuff because with one hand, they've been, getting the stick for about white guilt. Don't talk about this. Don't talk about that. You can't say that.
Yeah.
But we're trying to make you laugh and entertain you with that same
thing.
It's in a more celebratory perspective.
Well, especially if the person doing it is from that, from whatever they're talking about. It's a personal take rather than like an impersonal one. But with the antagonizing, that's a tough one. I don't know. I feel like I antagonize a lot of people with my material, and it's like, I need to figure out how to do it in a way where we all feel like we're laughing together. We're all like in on the joke kind of thing, instead of like it's you against me, or it's your people versus my people kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's a tough one. That takes, and I acknowledge it's going to take time, but I have to think about it now so that 10 years down the line, I'm not starting to think about it and then go, oh, I should have been thinking about this a long time ago.
Yeah, but I think irrespective of what the material is now, you always look back and you think, ugh, right? I was an idiot last year. I was an idiot 5 years ago. I was an idiot 10 years ago.
But there can be extremes. You can go, oh, I was I can't believe I was doing that 5 years ago. Or you can say, oh, yeah, every year I've progressed slightly, so I'm better. And going back to like talking about our rooms are two left for us, I think that's like an interesting concept. Because it's like, sometimes it is. It's like, sometimes it's like, it's more of a political, like the left, it's like, yes, I'm left. I'm probably center left, but like, it's like, it's too much sometimes. It's like,
it is.
It's too much, and it's actually segregating us even more than ever. There's two extremes, the left and the right. They're both just as bad as each other because they both treat me like, that's the concept I was trying to work at. It's like they both treat me differently, but for two completely different reasons. And they're like the far left is more like inclusion and trying to treat me like it's trying to include me, which is awesome. Yep, perfect, like that. But what happens is you kind of end up excluding me because you're scared that you'll say something to offend me by being so inclusive. It's like
it prevents you from standing in your own 2 feet, and it's still a pity lens.
It is. It's like that far one is like, you said you want to include me, but I feel excluded because I can't be myself and you can't be yourself when we're together. And then the far right, it's like, obviously they hate me, but it's at least they're obvious going, we hate you, and I'm like, yep, that's cool.
Yeah,
like you're specific about what you hate, and you're excluding me, but you're excluding me. That's it. Like that's done. Whereas you're playing this like Jedi mind trick. I don't think it's intentional as well. It's like unintentional.
It's overcompensation.
Yeah, overcompensation, which creates this barrier where you can't have like these conversations where you can't be yourself. That's the main thing. There's no
ease of conversation. You're not really seeing eye to eye.
Yeah.
It's more of a tempered politeness as opposed to a genuine connection.
Yeah.
Because you're not genuinely putting yourself in my shoes. And similar to you, I'm left leaning, always have been, always will be.
Yeah, same.
But the far left annoys me because it segregates through just these micro segregations.
Yeah, I don't like the segregation part. It's like you don't realize what you're doing by putting people in like these little groups.
Yeah, well,
and like based on oppression.
Yeah,
like we were always being put into groups previously based on gender, sex, sexuality, all these things, and now it's the same thing, but it's based on oppression rather than, whereas previously it was like based on who has the more power or who's more accepted in society. So using the same trick that was being used 50 years ago,
Yeah.
but applying it to a different standard. It's
Yeah.
like now it's a standard of oppression. Before it was a standard of power.
Mm.
And now you're also using the standard of power, like breaking it down so much. You're looking at power dynamics, then you're looking at sexuality, you're looking at race, you're looking at...
There's so much intersectionality
Yeah.
that you are just creating,
More segregation.
well, yeah, more isolation.
Isolation as well.
Because the right is rejecting you,
Yeah.
but the left is hyper segmenting you.
Yeah.
And
That's tribalism. That's basically, those are little tribes they've created.
yeah,
And like coming from a tribal society, you don't know what happens when you create little tribes. It's devastating, and it's gonna end badly if we continue like in this path. Like there's like civil war in my country right now between between the different tribes.
yeah,
Like, and it's
Y-
just
you're-
because they're so segregated. They're so
Yeah.
like, they all want like their own little power, and they're all so like, they're like, we need more. Like this person has that. How come we don't? It's like a constant battle for things that you think you should have and the other tribe shouldn't have.
it's entitlement. It creates entitlement,
Yeah.
and it creates hierarchy,
Yeah.
which is what we're trying to minimize as a society to provide equality
Yeah.
in any level of intersectionality.
Yeah.
And yeah, it seems to be just pulling in the, you're going to the furthest extremes to the perspective of you're going to just come full circle.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're seeing the pendulum swing socially with political correctness and, the narratives that exist in counterculture and cancel culture. You got to remember the pendulum swings both ways. So for all this hyper vigilantism around culture and, the left movement,
Yeah.
canceling is almost canceling is dying, because the central narrative for society is fragmenting. So whoever could be cancelled and considered offensive in one aspect of society doesn't really matter, because the other tribe is going, well, you're going to get rejected by them. The enemy of the enemy, my enemy, is my friend.
My friend. And they even become even gods almost. They become even more popular because they're going against you. And you've pushed them to that. You've pushed them to the other group now.
Yeah.
Because they're the only ones that would listen to them.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
You're just pushing them to the fringe.
Yeah.
And it antagonizes them. They don't feel like they're being understood, because, sure, I could be Asian, queer, trans, whatever it is. But if you're putting me in such a small box,
Yeah.
you're just making presumptions based on the intersectionality, not who I am as an individual.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not listening to the uniqueness of my story.
Yeah, maybe I don't belong in any of those groups.
Yeah.
And I feel like an outcast, but then you put me in those groups and I go, oh,
Yeah. And that's the perspective of, coming full circle with the aspect of the third culture.
yeah.
Is that, you're 40% Kiwi, 40% Ethiopian, 20% miscellaneous.
Yeah.
I'm the same, right? I couldn't even tell you, I feel more Australian than I do anything else. But
Which is fair enough. You were born here. You're
yeah,
different.
I was
Yeah.
born here, raised here.
Yeah.
My family, I wasn't integrated into a family unit. So, I sit at these intersections and relate to all of them, but ironically don't really align to any of them.
And that's the worst. That's like, because you never really belong.
No.
That sense is like crazy to not feel like you belong to any group, because you
Yeah.
belong to so many groups.
Yeah.
You
that's
associate with so
That's
many
why I'm a
groups that you
comedian,
feel.
folks.
Yeah, that's why everyone's a comedian. It's like, yeah, like a identity crisis. Like,
Yeah.
speak of
Welcome to
identity.
my life.
Yeah, it's like when you have so many cultures that you kind of delve into, but never really fully envelop yourself, and
Yeah.
that's even a word, into one specific group. You feel like, and I think that's what makes like us doing comedy so important and also so interesting, because we have the perspective of so many different cultures, and we can kind of, and being a cynical of all these cultures or being critical of all these cultures allows us to kind of delve deeper and look like outside the box when we're talking about them.
But don't you think we should be wouldn't it be more effective to leverage what's the commonality between all these sorts of things? I mean, it's definitely not as funny. Don't get me wrong, because that's what that's the basic concept of comedy is to observe and analyze these anomalies in the social fabric and elicit a response.
But that's what you said before. It's like 10, 20 years ago, people would say like, black people do this and white people do this. It was like that like observational comedy, but like at the basic level.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, black people, like, we do this, that, and we kind of don't like when white people are like this because it means that, and this is how this happens. It's like such a different way of doing it. Instead of going this and that, it's more like intertwined, but also history involved with it. So it's like talking about that would be better than just going, this is this and that's that. Yeah. Like nothing is black and white. It's like, sometimes.
But do you think
when I'm with my white friends, it is.
But do you think people are going to get fucking tired of it?
Of
just the
I think it's already happening.
Yeah, the constant antagonism, the constant differentiation between us all.
Yeah,
like
it's like I just want to be human.
Yeah,
like I don't want to be my culture. I don't want to be my gender. I don't want to be my profession. I'm just a person.
Yeah, but I think that's society's greatest challenge is talking about what connects us instead of what separates us.
I think, and I would love to figure out how to do that in comedy as well. I think you're right. Once you figure out what connects us, then you're not antagonizing. You're more bringing everyone together and showing it like we're all humans. And once you can do that, it's like very powerful, I reckon. Yeah.
It certainly becomes more of a celebration than a conflict. But how
and it's that? Like there was a lecture, like an interview with someone I was watching, and she was talking about like tribalism, and tribalism is like a product of depleted resources, and like in a lot of countries where there aren't that many resources, like one tribe will get more than the other, or the other one will get less than the other, or anything like that, and that tribe will just be angry at one tribe because they have more, and once they get power, then they attack the tribe that had more.
Yeah.
And so it's like that's the same system that's going on now, because that's why white heterosexual males are angry, because like
their resources are being attacked.
Their resources, they feel like their resources are being taken away from them.
Yeah.
And so like they're getting angry, going, "Oh, you don't like, why are you taking my resources?" Like I don't know how white people talk, but
why are you taking my resources?
Hey.
Yeah.
But it's like, isn't that interesting how it's the same thing, but like it goes from resources as a tribe to being resources as a power dynamic, or as a sexuality, or as a sex or gender or whatever like that. So it becomes, it's the same thing but done differently. So
tribalism is ingrained into us, and when you talk about it from a village or a tribe perspective, that's a survival instinct.
Yeah,
we have had that built into us through the ego, because it served a purpose while we were living in nomadic groups and hunting together, and gathering together.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of part that's the real societal aspects in our own brains and the instincts and impulses that we need to fight against to evolve as a collective, as a species, to using that front end of the brain, the one that actually has the rational thought instead of the monkey mind that's going,
mine,
then bad.
That's me, mine.
That's good.
Yeah, that's mine. That's like, I don't want to share. This is for my people. This is what we deserve, kind of thing.
It's surviving versus thriving. And the problem is, not a lot of people are thriving despite all of the abundance that we have. and how good things we actually have it.
We
Maybe
have it so good.
we have it so good, and that gives us this. But that, that's probably one of the luxuries we have as comedians, is that we have the luxury of abundance to an extent. I mean, surely we won't be socially stunted, but we are, when done effectively, you have the power to provide a perspective of abundance, which is rare, and it's based on a perspective of thriving as opposed to surviving, and not feeling like you need to do what's difficult and what's painful to survive.
Yeah.
But, that's a gift. It's hard it's not a gift you can just unwrap and just throw out there. That's the divine miracle of what Jesus and Buddha and, all the people I've got on plates over there
Yeah.
talk to us about. But hey, who knows?
We're getting we're getting somewhere. I think we're gonna always get somewhere, but it's gonna be turbulent ride to some extent.
It always has been.
Always has been, and I'd rather be in this position than any other position.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still glad I'm fucking here in Australia.
Yeah.
Enjoying my freedoms and the ability to speak.
To speak truth.
Speak my mind. And
Truth to power.
Oh, yeah. Great. Ugh. But yeah, that's the idea, right? Is that at the end of the day, what we're doing is a luxury.
Yeah. We're still grateful. We're still absolutely, blessed to be doing any of the stuff that we're doing. To be able to perform at gigs and I've just been trying to work on a joke. It's just it's like my cousin told me in Ethiopia, he goes, I'm gonna flee Ethiopia. I'm gonna try to go to Europe by getting people smugglers, and someone smuggled me through the Mediterranean up to Italy and then up to Europe. And when I got that message, I was at a gig on a Tuesday night having a beer, and it was what's that? Wow, what do I message back? I should. It's crazy. It's I should be working 3 jobs, trying to get by. But I'm so where I am is I'm in such a great place in terms of resources that I'm just he wants to leave. Where he's risking his life to get to Europe.
Yeah.
And I'm and I bombed that night, but still I did better than him.
I feel like that.
Yeah.
Everyone's a good Samaritan to bomb.
Yeah. The perspective was still better than my cousin.
He's just you're bombing, take me with you, please.
Yeah. Well, you and I are both risking our lives today. Yeah, there's a way sadder story to that, but anyway.
Well,
it's just acknowledge where we are and acknowledge that we have it good, and always fight for the injustices. Obviously, it doesn't mean to just be sit down and go, I'm grateful, and I shouldn't be upset at the government for doing anything. Good on you, anything that goes on. But also have both perspectives.
Yeah,
you can still be marching in the city. And be how lucky am I to be doing this?
Yeah, I mean, if you were trying to protest for rights in any Eastern country, in Ethiopia or in the Philippines or Pakistan, you've got rifles, you've got riot squad.
Yeah,
I mean, the biggest risk to people at these protests were Corona. Wasn't even a physical presence.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think just sometimes you got to just take a breath. Yeah, things could always be better, but that's just the mind that's our perceptions constantly.
We want the next big thing.
Yeah. We're always, there's a great...
I'm looking for the next rally,
Yeah, we're going to go to Bunnings, get a few torches after this.
Yeah, get a sausage, please.
Oh my God.
It's going to be a long rally. I'm going to need some snags.
Snacks or snags?
The snags?
Snags like sausages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to need some snags to last me this trip.
You've learned.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you even thought... Don't Kiwis use the term snags?
They do, but I was like, is this snags that I was?
Yeah, you don't really eat sausage though, because it's mostly pork. I would presume.
I don't, but like they do sausage sizzles and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we still do sausage sizzles in New Zealand.
Yeah, I would expect that. I just thought.
Oh yeah, but now everything's beef.
Yeah.
Even at like Bunnings, it's beef sausages. I asked the lady.
She's probably just like, yeah, whatever you're buying.
Yeah.
They don't care.
She's like, yeah, Allah's good with this.
Yeah, it's beef with the onions on it. Yeah, that's fine. Well, on that note, Sam, I think we might wrap it up there. Thank you very much for your time. And,
welcome.
Where can the people find you if they want to hear or see you more?
Find me on Instagram, Black Sideshow Bob. That's one word, Black Sideshow Bob.
Change that fucking
I need to change it, I know. And find me at any Footscray Comedy Club shows that we're going to put on.
Yeah. From my perspective, you can see me at @JRaymond. I have a website coming soon, so I will tell people about that when it comes out. Besides that, Footscray Comedy Club. Come check out one of our shows. It's really exciting. The shows keep getting bigger and better. They're a lot of fun, especially if you're right wing. Just kidding. But, and then, this podcast is produced on Aussie Comedy Network. Check that out as well at Aussie Comedy Network on Facebook and Instagram, TikTok coming soon. I've been Jameel Raymond. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you again next week. Ciao.
Bye.